Namaste, Dr. Sharma.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. When I share my interest in Hinduism with some of my colleagues, then those who are Christians or Muslims, they say, oh, but Hindus worship idols. So Hindus worship idols?
Do Hindus worship idols? Well, let's begin with the word idol. It's a bit judgmental. It already implies a negative view of what is being described. So let us use the more value-neutral word images. So do Hindus worship images? Yes. To the outside observer, it would seem like that. But as the French traveler François Bernier notes, when he passes through India in the time of the late Mughals, the Hindus had an explanation for it. When he was appalled, like a good Christian, by the sight of the Hindus worshipping what he thought were idols, he asked for an explanation from the priests of the temples. And they said that yes, it is true that apparently the Hindus seem to be worshipping the images, but they are not worshipping the images. They are worshipping God through the images. So for the Hindus, it is just another way of getting closer to God. When you have something visible to fix your mind on or fix your devotion on.
So it makes sense. But Christians and Muslims, they worship God without images. Why Hindus don't worship God without images?
Well, Vanessa, you said that the Christians and the Muslims worship God without images. We always worship God through images. They may not be graven images. When we worship God, we have an image of God in front of us. So it is really a question of what the worshipper feels most comfortable with. And if the Hindus feel comfortable with worshipping God, both with images and without images, then perhaps this should be as acceptable as the fact that Christians and Muslims prefer to worship God without visible images.
So why are Hindus more accommodating than Muslims and Christians? Don't you think it is superstitious to worship images?
Well, you have really asked me two questions. Let me answer the second one first. Is it superstitious to worship images? Well, one person's superstition is another person's faith. And one person's faith is another person's superstition. It's somewhat like what we hear today, that one who is a terrorist for some people is a freedom fighter for the other. So we have this problem of judgment. And we can best lay it aside for the moment, so as not to be judgmental or appear judgmental. But this does lead to the other point you raised about Hindus being so accommodating. Here you have the same problem we have with freedom of speech. If you have freedom of worship, then you will have to accept the loftiest statements along with the most nasty for that freedom to prevail. Because once you start curbing these statements on the basis that one is nasty and the other is lofty, the whole issue will again turn on who defines what is nasty and what is lofty. So Hinduism does believe in freedom of worship. And so it allows for freedom without any images at all, even without mental images. Not to just speak of physical images, but at the same time, it also accepts both. It does come with a certain risk. Hinduism's accommodation does come with a certain risk, just as the freedom of speech also comes with a certain risk. But that is the kind of risk we need to take to preserve our freedom.